Hey guys! Hey, chill. I've just walked in, I've got my coffee because today we are going through what to expect in the first 3 cycles post-recovery. I say cycles, I don't say months, because the likelihood that you get a cycle per month when you've just gotten your period back from HA is low. Okay, so your period is missing. You have hypothalamic amenorrhea, and you embark on the journey of recovery. I am here to show you not just what to expect charts-wise, but what happened to me. We're using my charts. So I paper charted when I first started, and I'm a big fan of paper charting. I will put a link to paper charts in the description below if you want to check them out. These days I use a temp drop. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but early recovery, this is not as good as this. Okay, so I was doing oral temping. This is the exact same method that I use with my clients. So if you are in recovery and you're charting, here is a realistic look into what to expect, okay? So my very first month, obviously I had been missing my period for many years. But my very first month of charting, I was actually able to get a period, which is really cool. So I'm going to show you what the first one looked like. Up on the screen here, we have got cycle 1. Cycle 1 was 45 plus was 35 days. Cycle 1 was 35 days. I had it written 45 up the top there, but that ain't true. So you can see you might be wondering why the first half of the temps is like a straight line and then the second half are lower. On day 19, I bought a new thermometer. On day 20, I used that new thermometer. So you can see that the thermometer I was using was not accurate. It was not a good thermometer. And I actually think it might have not even been a basal body thermometer. That dip on day 8, I had stepped on a scorpion on the day before. So I feel like that might have played a role in my temperature dipping down, but it's not until day 20 that I'm using an actual thermometer that is showing me my true basal body temperature. At that point, you can see for the first couple days of that, I realized that my temperature is actually pretty low, so I increase my food. That's how it works. And you can see I'm tracking some other things up here, like breast tenderness, days that I exercise versus days that I don't, how many hours of sleep I got. Like, oh, your girl is diligent. Your girl is diligent. The time that I took these temperatures at. And so you can see it's miraculous here that I get my period at the very end of this page. I remember, you can see the breast tenderness option. I've checked that box 3 times. So I had breast tenderness for 3 days in the lead up to my first day of bleeding. And you can see I don't ovulate. Looks like my body might attempt to ovulate, but I don't actually ovulate, and it can't be confirmed. Though I do see some cervical mucus. And it looks like I even saw a little bit of blood that first day. So this is not uncommon. Obviously, it took me longer than 35 days overall. It took me years to get a period. But this was 35 days of intensive action, checking my chart and making decisions. When my temperature was low on days 20 and 21, I made the decision to increase food, and you can also see I lessen up my exercise, and then my temperature goes back up, it stays steady, so I stay steady, boom, bleed. Here we are on cycle number 2. I have 4 days of bleeding. Then I enter into a fertile window. I start seeing my first cervical mucus on about day 8, right when I see an uptick in temperature as well. So the same thing had happened there. Coming out of my bleed, which is not uncommon actually, temperatures are low. That is your lowest time of estrogen, but they are too low. So I get back on track with my life. And my energy gets higher again as soon as I start seeing mucus, which is really cool to look back on. And if you scroll further along, you can see that I ovulate. I definitely ovulate. And it looks like it's only a 3-day luteal phase. I ovulate on day 20. Yeah, I'm checking what I wrote up here. At the time, I was less practiced. So I thought I either ovulated on day 18 or day... I might have think I thought I ovulated on day 7, then I was wrong. Then it was... That's obvious. I know now that's not possible, but I was still learning at the time. I see that I ovulated actually on day 20, which looks like it's what I originally wrote. So, guess I was second guessing myself a lot. Those lower temps too, all the way back on day 7, and it spikes up through day 11. That's interesting. I was sick that day. It looks like I did take a pregnancy test too. The delusion that I was in. Breast tenderness began, and I had a longer bout of breast tenderness, right? And I had a 23-day cycle. So this is a very short cycle, but I'm happy it came. It was only a 3-day luteal phase, but at least I had a clear and obvious ovulation. Matches all the rules for ovulation. 3 temperatures higher than the previous consecutive 6. I have breast tenderness that I have for more than just 3 days, unlike the previous month. My egg white, my mucus pattern was pretty wide, starting at day 7 and lasting all the way through to 20. That is not uncommon. We absolutely see that in HA. And my goal is to get that to be less and less and less time, starting earlier and earlier. And yeah, I mean, this is linear progress, right? I get another period really quickly. So on to cycle number 3. The temperatures are pretty good. They stay at a good baseline. And it looks like I actually don't ovulate until this time. It took me 39 days to get the next cycle. You guys, this is so expected. Healing is not linear. This particular month, you can see where I have written missed cycles. I actually flew out to Wyoming and I hiked for 5 days the Wind River Trail. I had not trained for this at all. I'm Australian. I've never been in elevation. And then I've gained tons of weight, which is fine, but I'm just like not ready for this trip at all. It was so beautiful. It was so worth it. I did lose 2 toenails just quietly. But yeah, I didn't get the temperatures at that point, and I'm sure I had delayed ovulation because it was 50 miles. I hiked 50 miles with a backpack all day long over 5 days, like a crazy person, but it was such an amazing experience, that mountain range. So in this instance, I believe that I ovulated because I'm tracking a 98-degree temperature, but they start coming down, down, down. So my progesterone is really, really low at that point. I am not tracking. I had at least 4 days of breast tenderness. This month is hard to know if I ovulated. Regardless if I did, it was abysmal. And that's fine. That's fine. That's expected. I probably brought my exercise back up. It was probably Olympic weightlifting. I see that I was quite stressed in my notes. Yeah, pretty interesting. Like I'm waking up at 2:45 a.m. I remember that phase of my life, and I would be up in the middle of the night just drawing. Yeah, it was interesting. So that happened. Bled all the way on day 39. And the following month, let's do cycle number 4 just because it's better, right? So I had that first cycle for recovery, initial recovery, second cycle 23 days, third cycle 39 days. Wow, it's so common for people to be like, what is happening? My body's not working. Boom, cycle number 4, 29 days. a luteal phase of about 9 days. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8-day luteal phase. So not only is it way longer, it's clear, it's obvious, it's defined that I ovulated by day 20. Mucus pattern there cross-checks that. Breast tenderness the whole last time. So that makes sense. And it's just much better. It's just so much better. Like, this is exactly the type of thing we see with our clients. It's exactly the type of thing I saw with mine. And then, you know, the next cycle I'm seeing, I had 29-day period. The following one, I actually had another exactly 35-day. So it's just interesting that that first month is, it's a great cycle, and then a slightly longer one, or a shorter one, or a shorter luteal phase, and then a longer one. And that's just a part of the process. After a year, it's just not going to be that crazy if you're doing all the things you need to be doing and you're not falling back into chronic dieting behaviors and exercise behaviors. So this is what is totally normal to expect. It's not perfection. It's not linear progress. It's kind of all over the place. And you're just looking for one thing to get better every month. And so I was seeing overall length would get better, or if it didn't, maybe my bleed was better, or my mucus phase, or I clearly ovulated. You're really just looking for one thing every month. And as long as you're moving forward somewhere, you're doing great. So I hope that this was a helpful episode for you guys to get an insight. I would love to know what your first cycles were like, if this is something that you have already been through. And why do you think it was like that? Did you take a hiking trip? Did you introduce exercise? Did you back off on food? These are all things that can definitely contribute to your first few cycles not being as consistent. And you can also keep it together and be really consistent and still have these fluctuations. And the reason is simple. The reason is because you're starting your menstrual cycle from something that had been laying dormant, from a dead stop. And a cycle, it's a cycle. It requires cycles in order to cycle optimally. So you're asking it to do a really big thing when it's completely out of balance. And the whole symphony of all the hormones are not only playing out of tune, 5 minutes ago they weren't playing at all. So you have to have that patience, stay consistent, expect a rocky start, but it's all going to come together. So I hope this was helpful, guys. And don't forget, if you live in the US, we are currently giving you guys your first bottle of Jewel Wellness for free, because it's going to change your life. No, I'm not a supplement pusher. This is just organs in a pill. You need it because you didn't have a period. You probably had an ED. Maybe you're on birth control. Depletion. Let's get our minerals back up. So check that out at jewelwellness.com. Get your first one for free. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week for more HA recovery tips and coaching. And you know, if you haven't checked it out yet, our website has a ton of resources. I have free resources on there. I have some smaller paid ones. We have the community. We have articles. It's a really robust website. So do check it out, thehasociety.com. And my email is on there too if you have a question you want to submit, or post your questions below in the comments so I can answer them in an upcoming Q&A. Cheers.